Hey guys, I'm Ginny here, aka Mustache Tom, here to review the movie The Postcard Killings. If you end up enjoying this review, then consider joining my Patreon page. Any donations are desperately needed. Alrighty then, let's get into The Postcard Killings. Excuse me. So this movie starts out with a man and woman, and there's a gun there. And we cut to them with their blood drained from their bodies. And we cut to London, where we meet Jeffrey D. Morgan's character, Jacob, in this movie. Yes, it's really hard not to see Negan from The Walking Dead, but to be fair, he is a very solid actor, so he's able to play off pretty solidly his role here as a as an ex-detective that gets to be a detective again. So, he has this moment of mourning as we are introduced to him and his wife, and he's drinking his sorrows away. So something terrible has happened to him, and we see these blurred shots that happen as he's drinking away and crying some more. The blurred shots do happen, I want to say, 2 more times in the movie. They're about the biggest thing I have an issue with, just because it just obviously looks bad. Other than that, I would say the movie is pretty solid. Anyway, we cut to these 2 new characters, Sylvia and her boyfriend, Mech, who are having their little moment. All the while, Jacob and his wife are looking around as she's like cleaning up and like trying to help him out. So she wants to look at the location where the bad thing happened. The bad thing, I'll just say it now, is that somebody had killed Jacob's daughter. And the wife and him are that upset. And she wants, again, to be at the location. So the killer, nearly left something behind. Or they left nothing behind as to give a clue or indication about who could possibly be behind this. All the while, we cut back to this train, and we see. Hold on, give me a moment. I messed up with my notes again. Sorry about that. Give me a moment here. There you go. I gotta find where I was in my notes. So yeah, we were at the train, and we cut to this couple talking to this tattoo guy, and just for simplicity's sake, I'll just call him the tattoo guy, because I don't know what his name is. Or I didn't write his name in the beginning anyway. So, cut back to Jacob and his wife, who's now freaking out because things have been toppling over, and, the emotional part. So we see the tattoo guy leave the train. And as I mentioned, we see that it is revealed pretty early on, as I mentioned, that their daughter was killed. And Jacob uses a map to link the different locations where things are happening. And one of the cops mentions this postcard, and Jacob is not allowed to see it at this point in time, which, police affairs has a lot to do with the beginning of this movie. And Jacob says that he will find the killer himself. So as he goes to this guy named Charles, this other, I think it's another cop, I think. uses his, or it was like an informant of like noticing something, and he uses his daughter as a like, hey, do you have family? Kind of, kind of digging at stuff to get info. Um, so he gets a little bit of info, but as he's trying to fly back to a new era, he is denied because he's freaking out and there's no more room in these planes, even though that does not fit the current situation we are living in currently. If anything, if this movie was made right now, they would probably be empty. It'd be the opposite anyway. Um, so he is handed the the daughter's belongings are like in the as evidence or whatever. Anyway, we cut to Germany, and a couple are talking about their dog, and it's an unnecessary scene, I feel. And then we see Jacob nearing a crime scene. And as he's sneaking, he's grabbed and brought in to into the police office, and Jacob is starting to build up a pattern of what the killer is doing, with including the postcard and the messages on the postcards, as well as the poses in which the bodies are being put in. Speaking of, in Sweden we see a woman getting a postcard, and Jacob trying to find this individual, and does so pretty quickly, trying to ask about the postcard that she received. So anyways, the tattoo guy bumps into the train couple, and again we get more of these blurry shots, again pretty annoying, as he is trying to tell this female cop about how there's going to be more murders out there that they haven't even caught yet in the so he says that their motive, or the way in which they are tracking them is going to be really hard to actually track them based off of the prescriptors of how they are moving. So Jacob comes across this reporter lady. I think I wrote her name at the end of my notes. I did not write her name at the end of the notes. Oh, no, I did. Daisy. Anyway, so Jacob meets up with her, and she wants to report on this story about the postcard killings. And while that's going on, they see that the different messages on the postcards, or she goes over them. Meanwhile, the trained couple meets the tattoos guy, his girlfriend. So Jacob and the female reporter, Daisy, check in with this artist guy who's talking about art. So they're able to essentially quite gather some information about that. So Jacob goes to to the information to this cop who's like, "Oh, I'm very loose with the rules." So he has the outside cop help as well. So the movie at this point is trying to suggest that the killer couple, it is a couple, so there's more than one killer, is actually the tattoo guy and the tattoo girl. And we cut back to them with the other couple, and the police move in, only to see that the tattoo couple is the one that's dead. Oh no, it's the other couple that's responsible, because they were the only other couple that was with them. So we as the audience already know who the killers are. Even though at the beginning it was like killer. Even though I slipped up and I said killers, and then I was like, oh, killer. Whoops. Anyway, I was gonna reveal that anyway. So anyways, we cut to New York, and Jacob's wife wants to get more invested in this case, and so she goes off. We cut to the guilty couple, and they actually get arrested at this point of the movie. So Jacob wants to get in there as they are being interrogated, and as they are listening in, he notices that their answers are highly rehearsed, that they know how to respond to every single question and get out and seem like they're completely, this is supposed to be like that red herring of like, oh, it's actually not them. So Jacob, he doesn't get his moment, by the way. So he talks to the free cop, or the cop that's like, whatever. He gives the daughter the picture of the daughter. Meanwhile, his wife talks with some guy named Bill about something or other. And he mentions how the son sold him out of spite or something. That's the story he tells. So she's sharing this information with Jacob and every other information that she's come across. So Jacob meets back with Daisy, the reporter. Kind of lost my place in my notes again. There we go. So the cops discover a fifth couple that has been murdered, and Jacob goes over and notices as he's talking with the reporter, Daisy, that he's looking at these little ticket stub things that you leave at the diner. And he's like, oh my goodness, they are that smart. They were picking up other people's bills and collecting them. So we see a flashback as the two siblings, quote unquote siblings, as they had a shared father. So he sees, after the flashback, Jacob sees the reporter's report and then leaves after the fact. So he's trying to get to them, and they see that he was coming, and they were already in the elevator, so he passes them by, oh so conveniently. So they grab new passports, so that's how they were able to travel from location to location with relative ease. And Daisy goes to him, to Jacob. Meanwhile, his wife is smashing into this house. It talks with, I think, their mom, question mark? Or the owner of that house, anyways. Or someone, I think it was their neighbor. Or their father's neighbor, I think, was the actual connection. So we cut to Belgium, and they assume that they're coming across this copy killer, with the postcard being written by another person or another handwriting. It's like very different, even though they already established that there were two killers. So I'm pretty surprised that no one brought up, like, oh, it could have just been the other person in the couple of the two, because the writing was very different. So they took down a gay couple to represent one of the pictures, one of the art pieces. I believe this one was Dante and Virgil. Um, so, Jacob, as he's looking at another crime scene, notices that the body parts of his daughter are used in other parts, and then, he's crying about it. So, the wife is visiting the father of the two killers. And the father goes on this rant about how ladies need to be ladies or something or other. And we cut to our two siblings, quote unquote, and they all do the big old makeouts, impliciting incest, I suppose. So Jacob mentions using the article to try to get to these two killers, and each group, as the article is sent out, starts to read the article. So like it gets to one of them, and the other one's like, "No, we need to finish." So the free cop gives Jacob a gun and heads off on his own. And the police, all the while, are setting up to tackle one of the trains. And they get to Finland. So we see the perspective from the killer's point of view. We see Jacob and Daisy getting in a car, and then them giving chase. And then their car, Jacob and Daisy's car is flipped over. So Jacob is knocked out and Daisy is gone when Jacob recovers. So now the reporter, Daisy, is with the two killers, and they try to force her to drink this tonic that will make her not feel pain. She spits it out and she's struggling to stay alive. Jacob comes out and shoots in the air once and then aims the gun at them. They talk a bit about, their reasoning. And the sister, question mark, or the woman, whatever one you want to go with, is all like, oh, your daughter, trying to get under his skin or whatever, even though whatever. So he ends up shooting the brother anyway, because he, blocks the bullet for his sister slash wife, girlfriend, whatever the relationship status is. So, he lets them go, helping Daisy out first. And we see the killer woman, trying to drag along the guy. And Jacob talks about after the fact how the two of them were adopted, and how I don't know how the whole adoption thing works. If you weren't siblings before, if that's still considered incest, I don't actually know. I don't know how that works. I'm pretty sure in some areas it's like you are considered siblings, and in other areas you aren't. Again, I don't know. Someone in the comments tell me, please. I don't know these things. I don't know how adoption works in that scenario, actually. Anyway, so Jacob and his wife meet up at the gravesite of their daughter, and he's talking to her. And we cut back to the killer's father, who gets a call from the daughter. Oh no, it's not over yet. Oh! And that was the Postcard Killings. Pretty solid thriller, as it were. Again, Mr. Morgan of The Walking Dead as Jacob in this movie pretty much carries this movie pretty heavily, which is why I'm not so surprised that he's the one in the movie. He carries it pretty strongly. As I mentioned, the blur shots are the only ones that are very distracting. And it's very interesting to see this sort of, as we are following the movie, we're getting these different points of view as we are collecting that information. As we learn who the killers are, who the guilty party are, that's when we start to actually follow them. I think that's a really interesting way of doing it. It's definitely something different from what I've seen. This isn't necessarily what I would consider a mystery movie, more of a just, we are trying to stop these, as they learn along the way, the two killers, and just trying to stop them before more people end up getting killed. More couples in particular, newly wedded couples, as they piece together throughout that movie. There's a little police bureaucracy work in the beginning of the movie. That's when we're following him. As he learns about the reporter, that's when we start to follow her a little bit more. When the wife wants to get more involved, that's when we start to follow her a little bit more. So there are little different pieces along the way. And it's all to build toward this case. Make it a solid way through. So yeah, that's about that. I would say I enjoyed it for the most part. I would give it a solid 7 out of 10. Enjoyable. Again, I don't know how the whole adoption incest thing works. Again, feel free to tell me in the comments how that actually works, because I don't know the technicalities behind that, or the technical aspect, to make sure I'm saying actual words here. Anyway, solid 7 out of 10, enjoyable film. With that being said, that is my review, and if you enjoyed it, then please feel free to like, comment, and subscribe. Also, make sure to check out the links in the description. One to head over to my Discord server, the other to my Patreon page. Any donations are desperately needed, and until next time, everyone, bye-bye.